Greetings from the C.M. Russell Museum. I'm Executive Director Tom Figarelle, and welcome to another installment of the 2020 Art in Action Artist Showcase. As many of you know, we're conducting a remote Art in Action, and Art in Action is a very fun and exciting part of our annual Russell exhibition and sale. Now, you won't be able to see the artists conduct their work, whether it be a quick draw or quick finish, but hopefully through these showcases, you have an opportunity to still get some engagement with the artists, get a sense of how things are in their world, and just try to have a little bit of that conversation that otherwise you would have in person. Art in Action is sponsored generously by D.A. Davidson Companies, who also underwrites all of our educational programming at the C.M. Russell Museum. We thank D.A. Davidson for their support and their commitment to the art and soul of the American West. And I'm joined today by artist Sally Vannoy. Sally, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Sally, just given the dynamics that we have in our world today, how are you faring?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, it seems like things are getting a little bit more normal now that the kids are in school and school is actually in session this year. That's kind of made things feel a little bit more normal as far as schedule and routine. And I think now it's been kind of enough time that we're all kind of getting a little bit more familiar with how it's going. But it is different for sure.
It is. Lots of challenges abound from, personal life to just even the smallest things of dropping your kids off at school. I know from personal experience, the things that we used to pre-pandemic kind of take for granted now have just a different layer of complexity to them.
Yes, for sure.
So Sally, quick draws and quick finishes have their own character to them. Obviously, you're working on a piece while having a conversation with someone. Just speak to us. Why do you like that type of a setting? How does that maybe engage or inspire you as an artist?
I think that quick finishes are just so much fun because I think an artist's life is we do spend so much time just in our studio by ourselves. So it's really fun to be able to have that engagement like with your collectors and with your friends, and for them to see your process and actually see what you're doing, how your brain's thinking, and to see it kind of come to life. So I think it's really fun to get that interaction. I love talking with people and having relationships and meeting new friends. And so for me, quick finishes are just a blast. I love them.
Well, that's great. And we know that our patrons really love them, especially Art in Action. Always a fan favorite. We're disappointed that we're not able to host it in person in 2020.
Yeah.
But hopefully 2021 will give folks and artists like you an opportunity to engage with people. But, I see you have a couple of friends over your shoulder here on canvas. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that piece or any piece that you're working on?
This is actually my latest piece. I just finished it. It's two sandhill cranes, and I live up in Big Fork, Montana. And I have kind of like a pond wetland area pretty close to my home. And so this pair was there for about 3 weeks. And it was really fun. I got to go observe them and spend time with them. And for being a wildlife artist, that's kind of what it's about, is getting out in the field and actually having these interactions with the animals. So it was really fun. And so I went home and started drawing up my idea of how I wanted to portray them. And I called it Wetland Royals because to me, the sandhill cranes are kind of like royalty out there in the wetlands. They're so neat and they're kind of prehistoric looking, and they're really cool birds.
Have you painted them before? Or
this is my first time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's great. Well, it's a very unique piece, and a sandhill crane, is something that it's a bird people are going to recognize for sure.
Yeah, and they have such an interesting, like their vocals and sounds. You can't really mistake them because nothing sounds like a sandhill crane. But yeah, they're pretty awesome birds. So.
Well, as you're painting and as you're developing, what is your creative process? How do you get inspired and then translate that inspiration onto canvas?
So with this particular piece, it started how almost all my pieces do. Our family was coming home from huckleberry picking, and we saw these sandhill cranes on our way home. And so I hurried and dropped the family off and said, I need to get my camera. And I got in my car and took off and went back down to where they were. And I spent over an hour just kind of watching them, observing them, seeing their interactions, really getting to know what they're about. And then I went back there several times, so, you know, to go and see again and get different lighting and different perspectives. And that's kind of how it works for me. I spend a lot of time out in the field getting my own references and observing for myself those interactions. And hopefully that, you know, shows through in my work. I've had a lot of people say that it does, and that means a lot to me because I do want to portray these animals with accuracy and show their beauty and their personalities through my work. So that's basically how my process begins.
Well, and certainly if you want to be able to show those nuances, like the personality of wildlife, you have to be in and amongst it. You have to be observant.
Yes.
And have to pick up on those small details that certainly someone would not get by just looking at a photograph in a studio, right?
For sure. And also, like, I always take a notebook with me, so I'm writing things down, things about their behaviors, but also colors. Because like you said, in a photograph, unfortunately, at this point, we don't have the technology to get those actual colors. And so I think it was just so interesting to see how many colors are in a sandhill crane. Right now it's fall time, and you know, the elk are in rut and different animals are going to be coming in rut. The bison just came out of rut, and it was so fun for me to go and experience that as well. And just looking at those subtleties and those colors and recording it down while you're there, I think that's really important too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when you, like you said, with photos, when people just rely on photo reference, there's just not the accuracy there. So.
Well, that's right. And, you know, then folks who know sandhill cranes or know bison, know elk, they're going to be able to discern the difference between an artist who has done their time, taken their due diligence to be on site and in and amongst the wildlife and the landscape versus those that have been removed. So,
Definitely.
You know, I think that's where people would get drawn to a piece like yours.
Thank you.
Well, Sally, thank you for your support of the C.M. Russell Museum, your participation in Art in Action. We just are very grateful for all that you do, and just wish you the very best for the remainder of 2020.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to 2021. It's going to be an awesome year.
I think we all are. It's going nowhere but up, right?
Yes, for sure. So.
Well, thank you again, Sally. We also want to thank D.A. Davidson Companies for their support of Art in Action. And each of our artists also are sponsored by different groups. Days Inn of Great Falls, rather, is the sponsor for Sally Vannoy in Art in Action in 2020, and all of their support goes to the C.M. Russell Museum and our educational programming as well. So we want to thank them. Once again, Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Showcase. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate it.
And everyone, be well.